Thank you for coming. Please, if you can hear me, let me see your comments. You're welcome. If you can hear me, let me know, please. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Let's wait for some more people to join. Thank you, S2DVI. Welcome. Okay. Our facilitator is here now, Mr. Leslie George. You're welcome, sir. If you can hear me, please let me know. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you. So, Mr. Leslie, you can join the conversation. I have sent an invite to you. You can send there's a request there that you can request to come on to join here. So, okay.
Hello. You can hear me, right? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very educative time, educative moment where we learn how to explain. I've got I've got some comments asking me, what kind of title is this? Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, we need to begin to move to a point where we are not just so everywhere, and we are doing what we truly need to do, rather than just hearing or hear the same thing over and over. I think this is a program where you can learn something new. I can assure you. I can assure you. You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. Please, uh, you can tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your staff members, tell your boss, tell your younger ones, friends, family members to join in, because I am so sure this is going to be fantastic. So, Mr. Leslie, thank you for joining. Thank you for approving your coming. I know what I get in the class, so that's why I want you to come and tell the whole world. Yes, thank you, Janet. You're welcome. Thank you. Please, I can't hear you clearly. Mr. Leslie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, great, great. Okay. You're welcome, everyone. Please let me have your comments if you're here. Let me have them, and let's know that you're here. Thank you for joining. It is really appreciated.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right.
So now I was just thinking if we could give some of those participants coming in, if we could give them just about maybe 2 more minutes, so they don't miss out on the things you'll be giving out now. I hope that's fine, sir.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Wait, this thing is recorded, right?
Yes, it will record automatically.
Okay.
Yes. What?
I thought I was just wondering, never done an Instagram live.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Fifth Gear Plus. You're welcome. We appreciate you. Our garden. The organs at the top. Thank you for coming. You know, the Africa project is actually something I've worked on for the past 7 years, and each time I thought I was ready, I realized I wasn't ready. I mean, so until 2021, when the thing I took the leadership development program for 6 months, you know, and then the thing began taking shape in my head and getting it down on paper to declog my mind, declog my head so that I can think straight. And I began seeing what I want to do. I began to understand on so many fronts and from different perspectives to see exactly what the African professional need. You know, it's high time we begin to interrogate how we think and how we communicate, and it's high time we begin to ask ourselves questions. It's not about the other person now, because if you know better, you will do better, and as you do better, people see you and they want to emulate you. They want to try what you're doing out and see how it works for them. And that's how it goes. That's why self-leadership is fantastic. It's the best thing you can ever, it's the gift you can ever give to anybody. Self-leadership, personal leadership. And this is where we begin at the Africa Project. We want to ensure that every African professional, as long as you're young, you are a light for others coming behind, and even those ahead will begin to watch you and know that yes, this is the kind of person I can leave a legacy for. This is the kind of person I can choose to represent me, to take over from me. And it starts from self-leadership. And if you cannot explain what you know, if you cannot communicate what you know, if you cannot explain or communicate what you do, then there's a problem. You know, there's a huge problem. So that's why we decided to have this, and I'm so honored to have Leslie George here. And in case you don't know him, is the CEO of Horizon Boone. It's a leadership development, HR management, management consultant. Is a management consultancy firm, HR firm, and a whole lot of that. He also trains on, especially he's heavy, he's very huge when it comes to leadership. Why? Because I've tasted him and I know what I'm talking about. So that he's here, you should be sure that you will have some good content. So while others join, I think it's just appropriate we start, because we've given enough time for people to join, and I know they'll keep joining. Thank you, Mr. Leslie. Please, you can start.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leslie George, and it is an honor to be here. One of the things I spend my life doing, my time doing, is trying to get people to understand, the best things, the best way, the best method to get things done. And a while ago, I had this encounter with some people, and I was listening to them ramble on and on about what they wanted to do and why they were there and all that. And it just occurred to me that these people are making a great mistake. There is a way you communicate whatever it is you want to say, to get people to listen, to get people to pay attention, to get people to commit. If you can't communicate what you're saying, you can't get my buy-in, you can't get my commitment. I'm not going to confidently say, oh, okay, I agree with this, because I don't. One of the main things that a lot of people in leadership have as a problem is their inability to communicate. And to communicate what you know, to communicate what you understand is one thing. But you see, if you are not able to explain something, an idea, a vision, a drive, whatever it is, a pursuit, and you can't get the people you want to follow on that journey to actually understand clearly what you're saying, you're going to lose them. Because if they follow, they're following because of you. They're not following because they understand it. It's not because the thing connects to them or reaches to them or reaches them on a whether emotional or intellectual level. They don't get it, but they're following. At some point, they're going to get tired because the thing that drives our commitment to any kind of pursuit, to any kind of endeavor, is how clearly we understand it. So when you're talking to people and you need to sell an idea, you need to pitch an idea, you need to understand one thing. How can I explain this thing to them in such a way that it is clear without question? And that's basically what this is about. Whether you're a leader, whether you're coming up to leadership, whether you are, whatever it is, as long as you want to sell an idea and you want people to join an endeavor, a pursuit, you must understand how to explain things clearly. So that's what we're doing.
That's great. I mean, with this introduction, I am so sure that everyone here knows something is coming. So, Leslie, please, can you help us with what are those things that bedevils our ability, that really fights our ability to explain what we know? Many of us, we know a lot, but when it comes to just the way some people say, there are some people, they know something but they cannot teach it. True. Some don't know but they have the ability to teach.
True.
So I think you're going to take this from the perspective of, okay, how do we start? How do we get this done? I mean,
okay,
to ensure we convey what we know appropriately,
okay,
using every tool available.
Okay, let me try and let me start this, lay a foundation. Over 100 years ago, well over 100 years ago, people started selling newspapers. Publishers started selling newspapers, and one of the things that occurred to them was, if they sold newspapers to intellectuals, to people who are educated, university level and all that, they will not make money because how many are they? And then, so what they decided to do, they decided to dumb it down. In other words, they started to write newspaper at the level of 6-year-olds. The chief reason they did that was so that every single person who can read will be able to read a newspaper. That will be their motivation to buy it. Their motivation was, the publisher, the idea was this: if we can get more people to be interested, then more people will buy it. So when you bring it down to the level of 6-year-olds, anybody that can read will buy it. What they were doing was they were simplifying whatever. That's what they wanted to do. So that any single person, anybody, as long as you can read and you can write, you can read a newspaper. Years later, they started to add columns to it and all that. So you started to have business columns, legal columns, and all that, and different columns. But the basic idea behind this was this: we want it to be so simplified that if you can read, you can understand what the newspaper is saying. Well, yes, it was a selfish idea, because what they wanted was they wanted to increase the number of people that would actually buy it. Because if you can't tap into it, if you don't understand it, if when you read it, the language is higher than your own thinking, you won't buy it. So they decided to do it. So that was the idea. It comes down to, if I'm talking to people and I want to sell a particular idea, the first thing I have to ask, number one, is, who am I talking to? That's the first thing that I have to ask. Who am I talking to? A lot of, we tend to group people into all the other groups that we know. For example, I'm talking about, let's say I'm talking about Marxism, for example. Marxism. Now, Marxism is an intellectual discipline. Okay? Marxism is an intellectual discipline. I can't talk Marxism to a primary school person, okay? Because it's an intellectual discipline. However, I want to explain Marxism. I can explain Marxism to my 11-year-old. I can actually explain Marxism at that level. The reason is simple. I look at it and I ask myself, how can I translate all those things that Marxism claims that we study at university level to people in primary school? How can I say that? How can I convert that? The idea is I first understand the people I'm talking to. Then I understand the elements of how they think, so that I would know the level at which I can engage them. You cannot explain anything to anybody if what you're saying is over their head. They don't understand it. Now, first thing first, who am I talking to? That's the first thing that you need to ask yourself. Then the next thing you have to ask yourself is, why should it matter to them? Why should what you're saying matter to them? A lot of times we don't pay attention to what we're saying when we're saying that. For example, I'm talking to an audience and I start to talk about a particular thing. What is the reason they will have to listen to? Why should it matter to them? Why should it be important to them? Why should they care? Why should they care? Do you understand? Now the idea is, is it important to these people? If they believe it's not important, they're not. If they believe it doesn't matter to them, they're not listening to you. Now, the only thing that people usually pay attention to is something that benefits them. So when you start to talk and you want to communicate something, somewhere in your head, you're going to ask, how does this benefit these people? What meaning will it have for these people? So the first thing we talked about was having to know who you're talking to. And then the next thing is, why should they bother? Why should it matter to them? Why should they care about what you do? If it doesn't matter to me, if it doesn't mean anything to me, I don't want to listen. I may listen half-heartedly, but I do not want to listen. That's why it's always a very interesting thing when you're selling products and all that. Because what you try to do is you try to sell that thing that makes the people, or that thing that will make people feel like, oh, this thing is important. This thing matters. That's why you do that. You do the selling benefits instead of features. Okay? So, first things first, who am I talking to? The next thing you're going to do is you ask yourself, why should it matter to them? Then you start to talk about building links. Okay? Every idea that you are selling, that you are projecting, is connected to
what you call it? Building what? Building links.
Links.
You said what?
L-I-N-K.
Okay, building. Okay.
Every idea that is linked to another idea, which is linked to another idea. In other words, you have to establish your primary premise. That's what it's called. It's a primary premise. You have to establish a primary premise. This is the foundation of everything that we're talking about. When you have established that, then you start to connect everything else you're saying to that primary premise, to that foundation. It's like building a foundation, and then when you build the foundation, you start to lay bricks for your first floor, for your second floor, third floor, whatever it is. But that foundation is the first thing that you build. That is your primary premise. Everything else that you're saying must be connected to it. It must be tied to it. So if I say, I have come here to show you how you can build a house for free, okay? If I start out with that, a primary premise, every single thing I say must be tied to that primary premise. At the point where I diverge or I move from that primary premise, nobody wants to listen to me anymore. Nobody wants to listen. So you need to start to understand that. Once you lay that foundation, you're going to ask that question. What exactly is that thing that people want to hear? You've said it, and then you may start to create links from that thing. You must be able to draw a straight line from that primary premise to everything else or through everything else that you're saying. Okay? So,
Yes, yes.
I'm trying to simplify it because it doesn't make sense to me if I complicate it. So I'm trying to simplify it. So the first thing is, who am I talking to? The next thing is, why should they care? Why is it important to them? If it doesn't mean anything to them, they're not listening. Then there's the creating links. Every single thing must matter. Every single thing must be tied to the primary premise. Don't forget that. Then we start to talk about details.
Details, right?
Yeah, we start to talk about details. This is where it starts to get interesting. You see, there are people who are listening. There are people who are interested in details. And then there are people who are not interested in details. They want big picture. Okay? You need to know that the details that you will give when you're talking are the details that are most relevant. If you are a person that is given to a lot of details, when you're talking, you're going to have that, what's the word? You're going to have that inclination to want to give a lot of details because that's the kind of person you are. But you need to understand that your audience may not be people who are giving you a lot of details. So the details that you give is what is most relevant. Give that, and then you continue doing the big picture thing. And every once in a while, if it's important, give details. If it's important, give details. But do not bog everything down with a lot of details. Don't do that. Okay? Because once people start to hear a lot of details, some people just get tired of listening. Because they can't zoom out the big picture. So they're in little things and all that, and like, this thing doesn't make sense. They want to see what the details are, little. But they must be able to see it in light of the big picture. So think of it like you have this huge painting, for example, and then we break that painting down into little squares, You see those details are little squares. If you give me too many of those little squares, I can't make a picture of this. I need to be able to see that big thing for me to know where those little squares go into.
Where they fit in.
Yes. So the little squares, which are the details, by themselves are useless. They only make sense when I can look at them against the backdrop of the big picture. So you must be able to sell the big picture. Within the big picture, sell the little details that matter. Not every little detail, not every detail. The ones that matter. The ones that help you explain what you're saying. The ones that matter, the ones that will give them reason to say, oh, okay, all right, I understand what this guy is saying. Not everything. Otherwise, you start to weigh people down with too much detail.
I truly wish I heard this thing some years back. But I remember, you see, some people are placed in your life to help you see the small things you are doing wrongly. I remember one time, while I was just starting career and all that, I was so used to giving details first before the big picture. I will just talk. And what I am saying, I realize that at the end of the day, I will realize that I have lost the person that I'm talking to.
That's what happened. That's what happened. You must always connect each detail to the big picture. I was
now told that, especially I remember him, Arosa Osenwege. Yeah, God bless that man. What he would do is he would just stop me. He would say, stop. First, say what you want to say, then give detail. Say it. I never knew the power of that trick until recently when I started, gaining myself putting myself together to ensure that I am not carried away by what I want to say, but I am in charge of, or I'm in control of the content I'm giving out, so that I'll be able to marshal my point accurately. What you're saying is really, really helpful. Thank you. So you can continue.
One of the things that we pay attention to when we're talking to people and we're trying to sell something, we're trying to explain something, you need to pay attention to the people that you're talking to. You should be able to see them. their face, read their body language. Because when you're doing that, you can tell when they've started to disengage from what you're saying. You can actually, you can tell when you're giving too much detail. You can tell when you're, bogging the thing down with all sorts of things that you don't need to say. You need to constantly monitor what you're saying and then monitor their own responses. Okay? You need to constantly do this. Another thing that helps you is your ability to use examples and analogies. Okay? A lot of us don't know how to do that. We just say something, and it's a difficult thing for us to be able to explain something. For example, you have an example. You don't know the best example to use. You do not know how to use analogies. You are struggling to say, okay, here, okay, let me say it like this. Okay, imagine that, and you can't put it together. That's why you practice a lot of these things before you start to try to explain to people. You need to practice it. You need to have your examples and your analogies down before you start to try to explain things to people.
Something.
Okay? So, examples make things clear. So when you say something to me, I'm going to ask, could you elaborate on that? Could you give an example? Could you clarify? Now, when I give an example, you're like, oh, okay, that's okay, that makes it clearer. Because an example will make it more relatable. But then there are times when you use an example that is outside what this particular audience may understand. You may use an example that you and the people that are familiar with what you know and what you do will understand, which is a problem. For example, if you are, for example, let's say you're a theoretical physicist, all right? And then you're talking about something that, and then you're using an example from theoretical physics. An example that I will have to understand theoretical physics for you to understand that example. You've lost me already. You understand? You've already lost me.
Yeah, I do.
Look at this goes back to the first thing I said, where you have to know the person or the audience that you're talking to. That's one of the things that tell you the kind of example or analogy that you can use when you're talking to them. So you know them, you know, like, oh, okay, if I want to talk to these people, I can't start talking theoretical physics. I need to come down to something that everybody will understand. Always remember the simplicity of the newspaper at the level of 6-year-olds. Always remember that. So whoever it is you're talking to, take, for example, your audience is mixed. You have people who are educated, you have people who are not educated, you have people who are somewhere in the middle, you have people who are overachievers academically, you have all sorts of people. You need to be able to say, all right, what is the lowest level
of in the audience?
Yeah, that audience. You need to be able to explain whatever you're explaining at that level. Because the people at the very top can understand that. But the people at the very bottom cannot understand if you're explaining at the top. So you need to look at it and say, okay, what is the lowest level here? That's why a lot of times when we come to do trainings and all that, we'll ask who the audience is. So what do you do? Who are you? What do you do? 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 Do you understand? Kind of thing. The reason it's supposed to give you an idea at the level on which you will engage. It's not because you want to know them. You don't need to know them. The idea is for you to understand the level at which you will engage. That's why you're asking what they do and all that. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for you to start to guess the level at which you should start with and all that and all that. I've been at training where I'm explaining something and somebody says, I don't understand it. And then some other people say, what is there not to understand? Do you understand? And you're like 3-4 people are saying, I don't understand. And then the rest of people are saying, we understand. You see, those 4 people, they matter enough for you to break it down.
True.
To start to explain at their own level. That's basically what it is. You need to understand that. You're not talking to yourself, you're talking to other people. And when you're talking to other people, you take them and their peculiarities into account, into consideration. Okay? Into consideration. That's something that you never forget. And then another thing is, you know something is one thing. You know that thing well is another thing. You know it well enough to explain it is something else. Okay? Now,
3 different things now, right?
Yeah? Yes.
You have brought about three things
Exactly.
into one. You know something?
I know it well, and I know it well enough to explain. Now, there's some people who and they know it well, but they can't explain it. They lack the capacity to actually explain it, to teach it, to break it down. They lack that capacity. These things I'm saying are things that you need to practice a lot, so that you can learn how to do this kind of thing easily. If you're going to talk about something, take your time to practice this, so that you can talk about it. You can use this tool. What I'm talking about now, these are tools. You can use this tool in the best way you can. Okay? So you need to know what you're talking about. Sometimes I think I know, and then I actually know it's not. If you know what you're talking about, you need to be able to learn, okay, I know this thing well. I can't explain it. Einstein said something that was interesting. He said that unless you can explain it well, unless you can explain it like then you really don't understand it. You understand?
If you cannot explain it, then you don't know it.
You really don't understand what you're saying. Because you may know the thing, but there's an understanding that allows you to be able to explain it. Okay? Now, the more you pay attention to something, the clearer it becomes to you. The reason we can actually explain a lot of things is because we can connect those ideas that are difficult to understand to ideas that are easily understood, already understood. When you know, it's like saying, okay, I want to explain something that is complicated. I look for something that is not complicated, that people already understand, for me to explain this complicated thing. You understand? For example, you want to explain. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm saying something to somebody, and I said that you don't have. You know, when somebody say, I want to. That is my own truth, and I say you don't have a truth. You don't have your truth. Truth is what it is. It's not relative to you or me or anybody. Truth is truth, whether it's for you or for me or for somebody else. That's what truth is.
It's universal.
And somebody said, I don't understand. Explain. And I said, okay, let me explain it like this. If I were talking to you and I say, turn right, you could ask me, your right or my right? You understand? If I say turn left, you could say my left or your left. Because left is relative to who is saying turn right or turn left, right? When I say go east, east is east for everybody on the face of the earth. There's no my east, your east. It is east. So if I say go east, there's no conversation. There's no questioning. There's no asking. You probably will just ask, how do I locate or determine this? That's probably what you will ask. But you will not ask me whether my east or your east. Because east is east no matter where I am on the face of the earth. East is outside me or you. It's outside how we think or how we feel. Okay? And it's the same thing with truth. Truth is not determined by my position or orientation. Truth is truth.
Or experience. Yeah.
You understand? Now, or experience. This is the truth. So when you're talking about this thing, know exactly what you're saying, enough for you to be able to explain it. Understand it well. Understand it really well, so that when you're talking about it, it is the meat, the bone, the milk, every single thing you have. You can actually start the results to whatever it is you want. So you're saying something and somebody that is not really educated is asking you, sorry, I don't understand that. You break it down to that level. Somebody else that is saying that, but this thing sounds simplistic. You raise it up to that level. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Because you understand it well enough. Once you don't understand it well enough, it's difficult for you to be able to explain. And then there's some of us that will go online and read some things and they will come to try to explain it to you. it becomes a problem for us. The reason it becomes a problem is because we cannot explain something that we do not completely understand. We cannot.
Understand. True.
That's when you start to tell people stupid things that you saying it, you don't understand what you're saying. That is where we need to that's the thing. Now, another thing is, when you're trying to explain something to a person or a group of people, once you start to explain and the person is telling you what they think, because you need to get feedback as you're listening, all right? You need to understand their own point of view. Once you understand their point of view, it becomes easier for you to know where they're coming from. For you to say, oh, okay, now I see why you're asking me that question, or I see why you're disagreeing. You understand? Once you see their own point of view, you need to be able to see whatever it is that is being said from their point of view, so that you can come at them from that point of view. From your own point of view, you don't, because they're not seeing your point of view. They can't see your point of view. When you get their point of view and you start to come at them from their own point of view, they start to see it. That's when you get things like, okay, now I see it. Okay, now I understand it. That's when you start to see it. You understand? So you need to be able to understand that. You're not talking to yourself, you're talking to others. You need to understand that. You need to understand how they're thinking it. A lot of times, how we think something is clouded by our worldview. It's clouded by our own experiences. A lot of times. So you need to hear the person and you say, why do you think that? Just ask the person, why do you think that? So the person is going to explain. And you're like, oh, okay, now I guess why. So once you understand why, you know which analogy to make it. You know what to, you understand? That's basically how you need to approach it. You're not talking to yourself. Always remember that you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to someone else. And that someone else may not be seeing what you're seeing. Your perspective is not what they have. They don't have your perspective. You are the one that has your own perspective. You're the owner of that perspective, and you're the only one seeing that perspective. Imagine that I'm inside my house, I'm at the window, and I'm looking out, okay? And I'm looking out, and I'm talking to you who is standing outside. You see, you are standing outside. I am inside my house looking outside. I have a unique perspective, because I can see that outside. But you are outside. You can see me, you can see around, you can see the areas that my own vista does not cover. You understand? So when you are explaining something to me about that outside, I'm going to argue with you based on the outside that I'm seeing through my small window. So you need to explain to me. When you ask, why are you saying so? And then I say, because what I see here is, oh, okay, now I know why you're talking like that. Then whatever they're saying is going to expand my vista. Whatever they're going to tell me right now is going to expand my point or my field of view. That's the idea. That's how you need to think about it. Okay? So you're looking at other people's point of view. That's supposed to help you. All right? Then
Okay. You see how some points, right?
Yeah, they're like two more.
Okay. But before you go into those two, while you were talking about this thing, something just dropped on my mind that means this thing about explanation and everything boils down to communication. How you're able to hone your communication skills, how you're able to think and really pass your message in such a way that the other person not just believe that you understand him or her, also believe that you are for him or her.
Yeah.
And I see this kind of thing. What you're explaining now tells me that this can work even in marriage. This can work in business.
It works everywhere. It is a universal. These are universal principles. These are universal principles, and we have made the mistake of forgetting what universal principles are. We've forgotten those things, and we're listening to a lot of people who are telling us all sorts of things. These are things that even if you did not go to school and you're a thinking person, it will occur to you. You're thinking it. Do you understand? And that's basically how it is. They are universal principles. So another thing is, talk to people in a language they understand. In a language they understand. For example, I'm talking to you and I'm using the word concupiscence. I'm talking to you and I'm using huge words.
Grandiloquent.
Yes, grandiloquent and all that. In English, there's a phrase that my friend and I used to use. It's the phrase is bombastic noetics. Noetics are like language, use of words. When you say bombastic,
Okay.
you mean it's inflated. Okay? It's inflated. Now, you're using words that make you sound intelligent. But the more you use those words that make you sound very intelligent and very knowledgeable, the less you are understood. That's where the problem is. So you use a lot of very big words, but the problem is not, like I said, you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to people. Do they understand what you're saying? Do they understand what you're saying? Do they understand the words you're using? Now, you said grandiloquence, okay? Now you said grandiloquence. How many people do you know who actually went to university who understand what grandiloquence is? Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And I think this will very much work for writers, especially social media writers.
For writers.
So they don't think
I read somebody
they don't think they want to impress their audience when they are actually confusing them the more.
A lot of times, I read somebody's book, gave me a copy of his book, and all. I was quite interesting. I liked it. But I noticed that he was using a lot of words. At some point, you're going to get tired of running to the dictionary and back. And if you're not a run to the dictionary kind of person, you just get tired of reading it. You don't get tired of reading it. So you don't talk to people, you don't use words that are too big. You don't use what we describe as inflated language, okay? When you're talking to people, look for what we describe as common ground, something that anybody will understand. Simplify, always simplify, always simplify, always. It solves the problem for you when you okay? And how you talk. I just said the words that you use. I talked about tone. Okay, about words.
Yeah.
Tone. You see, if I'm talking to you, and I'm trying to explain something to you, if I sound arrogant, if I sound like I'm better than you, if I sound like I'm more intelligent than you, you don't want to listen to me. You do not want to listen. Because while I'm trying to explain something to you, I'm belittling you by how I'm saying it. And nobody wants to be belittled, which is a problem in itself. Nobody wants to be belittled.
And these are very, very elusive nuances. So let me begin to speak grammar now. Elusive nuances that many people don't really take note or pay attention to.
They don't pay attention to. They don't understand. They don't pay attention to. And these are the things that endear people to you when you're talking. Okay? Endear people. If you have to use words that are huge, break it down. You understand? Break it down. If you have to use a phrase or a terminology that is not common, break it down. At least you help the person know that, oh, okay, so that's what that thing means. The next time they hear it, they understand. They understand. That's basically it. So your words, your tone, your pace. The people that you're talking to, they may not be able to follow at the pace that you're talking. If you're talking fast pace, if you're quick pace, you need to slow down. You need to talk at what we describe as with even tone, even pace. Don't hurry it, slow it down. If you hurry it, at some point you slow down and explain what you just said. If you notice that, oh, okay, I've talked a lot, I don't talk plenty, so you slow it down and then you explain what you just said, so that you don't lose them. See, once you lose the attention that you have of any audience, you're going to fight a lot to get it back. You do a lot of fighting to get it back. Let me say this thing: when we're doing presentation and teaching presentation skills and all that, one of the things that I found out and is established is that the first 2 minutes of your presentation, of talking to an audience, public speaking or whatever it is you're doing, the first 2 minutes are the most important. If you don't have the attention in the first 2 minutes, you're going to struggle to the end and not get it, or struggle to get it back Because those first 2 minutes are crucial. Once you don't get attention then, it's a problem for you. It's a big problem for you. So, these things I said are simple. They're things that you can use. And you need to, for those people who are pitching, for example, you're going to pitch an idea, you're talking to investors,
Yeah.
you're talking to whatever it is. You need to learn to talk and focus on benefits, not features. Let me explain what we mean by features. If you have a phone, this is the easiest explanation I have, easiest analogy. If you have a phone, an Android or whatever it is, or maybe you have a phone, okay? Your phone has an oscilloscope, it has a gyroscope, it has multiple things. Now, if I want to sell a phone to somebody and I'm telling the person that, this phone has an oscilloscope, it has a gyroscope, the person is going to look at me like there's something wrong with me because they don't understand what an oscilloscope is or what a gyroscope is. But if I tell you that this phone can do X, Y, Z, because it has a gyroscope, and it can do so and so and so because it has an oscilloscope, you're like, oh, okay, now I understand. What you're doing is you're focusing on the benefits, not the features. Okay? You're focusing on the benefits, on the functions, not the features. Oscilloscope, gyroscope, those are features. I'm like, that's features. Tell me what it does for me. Tell me why I should care. You understand? Why should it matter to me? When you can actually tell people function or benefits over features, you get their attention. When you're trying to sell
sales people should be thanking you for this.
You're trying to sell a different idea and you're selling them features. They're looking at you. They want to know how it benefits them. They want to know the things that they need to look out for. The questions they will ask you are simple. How do we make money from this? Can this go wrong? And if it goes wrong, what can we do about it? Can we sustain this? If we make money from it, can we sustain it? Is it something that's sustainable? Is it easily copied? If it's easily copied, then what is the idea that we'll have of having to constantly re-envision it and rethink it and whatever? Those are the questions they will ask you. All those questions border on function, on benefit, not on features. Talk benefit, not features. Always pay attention to benefits, because if you want me to put money in your business and you start to tell me something amazing that doesn't tell me how I make money, I'm thinking this person is not ready. So that's what you need to think.
Wow, it has been a very wonderful time. And you know, when you're talking, I started looking at, okay, what about someone who just started out, career, and been wondering, how do I navigate my life, my career, myself through this journey, through this ladder up there while I'm here? You know, both at work, wherever, because everything you do has, in one way or the other, some effects on your career.
Very true.
So even when you talk at home, it has some effect on how you talk at the workplace. So what 1, 2, 3 advice do you have for career beginners? Let me put it that way.
Slow down. Let me say that. That's the first thing I'm going to say, slow down. A lot of us are in a hurry. We're in a hurry to start out. We're in a hurry to get results. We're in a hurry to perform, show how good we are and all that. Slow down. The first thing that you need to do is to establish how you're going to do whatever it is you're doing. Okay? Once you've established how, then you can go ahead to start to do whatever it is you're doing. Slow down. Don't be in a hurry. You see, wherever you are, pay attention to that place you are. It's only when you perform well on that level, you do what needs to be done well on that level, only then can you move. Up until then, you can't move. So focus on the now, here, right now, where I'm standing now. That's what you should focus on. The way you example, my children, my son, my younger son, I don't know where he has gone to learn how to say some things, and listening to him talk, and I'm like, is this English that you're speaking? Are you speaking English? Is this English? You understand? And one day I said, This is how you talk when you go outside. This is how you talk at home. This is how you talk when you're amongst your friends. Then it taught me that, look, how we talk, the way we speak is fundamental. We don't even realize how we're talking till it occurs to us. You see, a lot of us that we have two faces. We have the face for home and the face